Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I do greatly appreciate it. If you don't know, we are also simulcasting on the Simply Cyber community channel. Thank you so much for Dr. Gerald Ozier for letting us to stream over there. I do greatly appreciate it. So first off, let me introduce you myself. If you don't know who I am, my name is Eric Taylor. I'm the CEO and Chief Forensic Operator here at Barricade Cyber Solutions, and this is literally what we do. We do for digital forensics and incident response. And I want to first start off by saying what this is not. This is not a walkthrough of how to exploit ScreenConnect servers. This is not, how to generate reverse code, do reverse engineering, any of that type of stuff. This is not that. There's plenty of other folks that are, going from the rooftop and saying, you got to patch it, as Dr. Gerald Ozier says. I got to bring this up. I forgot.
You gotta patch it.
So, you got to patch it, right? So, I will do a little bit of, what do we know so far? I will do, kind of what tool is currently out there to help the quote unquote script kiddies kind of automate their workflow. But then we'll kind of go into what can we see as the digital forensics and incident response. And if you're in SOC analyst, things of that nature, what are we going to be looking for? So that way we can determine, has our ScreenConnect been essentially compromised, right? So with that, I want to dive right into it. We will turn down the music just a tad. I do like so those who don't know, we use Restream here for ours. I am considering using TeamViewer or Webinar, but more about that in a few weeks to months. But our platform that we use has a music AI platform, and I'm kind of digging the chill vibe music that's on here. But anyway, let's get started. All right, so what do we know so far? Right, so on the 19th of February, ScreenConnect came out and said, whoa, we got a major security flaw, right? They said to upgrade all of their versions to 13.9 release, please use the following upgrade path. And I want to, this is going to be really small. Let me zoom this in. So in here, you will see, you'll see you have a complete upgrade path here. So it's very, very important. We've seen a lot of folks that are saying, that my ScreenConnect server is broken, things of that nature. You really need to go through the upgrade paths, right? So, and we'll talk about that more in just a few moments. So everybody pretty much knows that. If you don't know, then now you know. I'm sorry. What we also seen come out as of yesterday is CISA put on what's called the KEV, which is their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, so, aka the KEV. And they've pretty much essentially said, hey, you've got to patch it.
You gotta patch it.
By the 29th, which is not that much time. But to be honest, this is not that big of a remediation patch to go through, right? So those who have ScreenConnect has gone through, many upgrades and things of that nature. It's a simple application. You run it, it kind of installs, and within about 2-3 minutes, depending on your system, maybe a little bit longer, but it's kind of patched. From my understanding, again, I don't know the full intricacies of this, but I am told that that if you're a hosted platform with ScreenConnect, that they are working through the patch updates in their loop cycle. They have a ton of products, but they've put in what's called a WAF control, web application firewall, things like you would use for Cloudflare, things of that nature. That is helping mitigate this as they go through, not leaving people vulnerable. Again, I'm hearing a third party. A lot of people are kind of telling me about this, and we have another group called the Tech Degenerates. It's kind of helping feed me on some of the intel from the IT and some of the other stuff. So shout out to those gentlemen over there that's kind of giving me some of the information. So with that said, again, what we know so far, there was a release. I've been hearing rumor from even some of our clients that we have on IR Retainer, but there is a release as of 2 days ago that are that's supposed to be a patch. I've heard, and I haven't confirmed or anything like that, if this version number, the 23.9.10.881.7, is the latest one that was getting talked about this morning to be released or not. We'll dive into it, but again, this is not supposed to be a technical breakdown by any means. As we kind of seen, I showed you that in this instance here, where they did say upgrade your versions in this path, please take that to heart. When you go into ScreenConnect and you click right here into the view archive of all stable releases of your software, then it will actually bring you to here, and you will actually start seeing all these versions, all these minor versions are updated for the most part, right? So you'll just go through and you'll go through your patching cycle and Bob's your uncle and things of that nature, right? So enough of that. Let's dig into a little bit of why some of the massive hysteria, right? So this is Metasploit. Those who don't know what Metasploit is, it is a Linux application, or I guess I should say just a Python application, really. But typically it's run in Linux that helps you automate going through and, doing different scans and popping shells and doing all the red team stuff that you could be able to do. So there was 2 modules that was actually released inside of or getting pulled into Metasploit. And I don't know as of Friday morning if this CVE is publicly available within the generic download of Metasploit, or if you just need to download this pull module. But I would suspect if it is not actively in the Metasploit framework yet, it will probably be there very, very soon. With that said, when we're taking a look at this Metasploit, we're going to dive into the first one. So there's 2 ways of doing this. And again, those who know me know I'm not a major reverse engineer by any means, but from here we're seeing that they are installing, an actual extension onto the computer, right? So it's updating, or it's uploading the extension, then it's removing the extension, then it's also deleting all of its information, or it's deleting the ASDX, which is the extension file itself. So everything gets to, it installs it, it does its program, and it removes its traces, kind of like what a typical threat actor would do. But Eric, what is that exact extension? Well, I'll tell you. Right now, it is literally just if you've been on LinkedIn or if you've been following the Huntress feed, this note on desktop is what that extension is. Again, sorry for the poor drawing, but it's literally just dropping a note on the desktop, and it's non-benign, but with a little bit of finagling, you can start dropping any of these type of extensions, import bulk users, advanced configuration editor. You can drop a whole bunch of stuff in here. So this vulnerability, while the Metasploit tool itself on the surface is very benign, so to speak, it has no ill will, no ill intent, things of that nature, just by leaving a note. And if I remember right, John Hammond from Huntress was just dropped a note on there that said, hey, please patch this, or please patch, or whatever the case is. So that's one avenue. The other one, and this is the same Metasploit itself. This one actually just goes into a simple URL of setupwizard.aspx. So literally, you're doing what's called directory fuzzing. in just a moment, I'll kind of show you that. So when you, this setup wizard, after you've already set it up, you should not be able to access it, right? So if you've ever been, like say, for instance, if you have WordPress, once you go through, you should never be able to access the WordPress configuration. You never should be able to access Drupal. You should, from a public interface, and that's kind of what this thing is, right? So we shouldn't be able to access that setup wizard ASPX at any time from a remote location, but that's kind of what we're seeing here, right? So we go through, we'll get right into this walk-in a little bit. So, I do have this publicly facing. This is the ScreenConnect server log, and we'll kind of walk through the how to do. Well, you know what? Let's do that. I was going to do it a different way, but I think it kind of puts things out of sync and out of order. So we'll do this. So shout out to those who are, Simply Cyber. Carl is dumb. So we're literally doing directory fuzzing here, from the setup wizard.aspx / Carl is dumb. Carl. And we are actually able to do this, right? So I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to pivot for one moment. We're going to come back, but we're going to pivot. Inside of the user, let me actually pull this up. There we go. So inside of the user XML file, this is the database, quote unquote. It's the XML file. It's the file that holds all of the user information for the ScreenConnect server. Now, you'll see here, like I said, this is a real ScreenConnect server that we stood up. It has been compromised, right? So we stood it up, we let it be. I didn't even think it was going to be compromised by the time it came in here, but it has been. This is a, at poc.com, just some randomly generated information. Username is the same as the mail. So they actually changed the username of administrator to this specific user, right? So can I? Nope, I can't. So I just got to zoom out and back in. My apologies. So what we're going to be looking at is several items from a forensic standpoint, right? Is the name different than what we typically set up, and is the email different? Has this been changed? And in this specific situation, yes, it has. Okay, when did this change? We got these values of last password change date. And just so you know, I have the server system time and everything is in UTC. So as we go through this, we don't have to do the 5 hour, 6 hour, time differences just to make it nice and simple. But, this was changed at 8:34 UTC on the 23rd. Right after that, we see the threat actor log in to the server literally 2 seconds after they changed the password, right? So they gained in, and 2 seconds later, they're in their server, or in your server. The one thing I still have to go through and vet, again, this is a very fluid thing. The one thing I did notice in this is when they compromised this, and I'm not sure if this is part of the Metasploit or if this is part of the user going through the web GUI, and I'll explain why I don't know this in a few moments. But I'll tell you, the password hash, this actually gets, no, never mind. That's actually a different file. My apologies. I was getting sidetracked. My apologies. So you can actually look at this particular file hash and be able to base 64 to code it, and whatever. So that's kind of the user file. So when we're looking at this, this will have, again, all the users that are listed in here. We see in this specific device or this specific server that we have on the internet that it's completely compromised. There's been unauthorized access into the device, things of that nature. Now I do want to pivot to the error logs, because this, from a forensic standpoint and a SOC analyst standpoint, this is definitely something that is a very of high importance for everybody. Now, before I go into this, let me say this, and this is the what I'm about to disclose to or talk about here is just error logs. Unfortunately, from what's being told to me from people much smarter than I am, and again, I've been away from IT a pretty good bit. Those who know me, I always make the statement: Can I build an Exchange server? Yes. Am I best qualified to do that these days? Probably not. The whole additive, just because you can do something, should you? Probably not. But ScreenConnect, it runs off of .NET, and it uses a driver to spin up a web page. So it's using .NET as its front end. So there's no real good logging on that aspect unless unless you develop it inside the .NET code to do that. So the only thing we really have is error logs, unfortunately. So you'll see in the bottom of the screen there the path to the error logs. If you don't have it, please make sure you go out to Google and enable it. Again, this is not trying to be a a tech walk in or walk down or whatever. But the one thing I want you to take a look at, especially in the error logs, is anything that is setupwizard.aspx / whatever. Just look at setupwizard.aspx, right? That right there, if you're starting to see that automatically, especially with anything trailing inside of your environment, this is already a telltale sign that you've got some major problems on your hand. This is like if you're at Firewatch and you're overlooking, a forest and you're starting to see smoke, you're like, yeah, there's fire. We just don't know how bad the fire is right now. So, definitely be looking for that. All right, so this is all just logs, again, of the errors. So it doesn't, unfortunately, tell us every single connection that comes in. And that's a problem, right? So, we do see where this one, oh, that actually zoomed in way too far. Sorry if I just freaked anybody out on that one. If you can't tell, this is live, ladies and gentlemen. I do very bad on recorded. But we do see that it was, me testing it on this particular situation, but the page had an error on it. So if I load this page up, like you seen just a few minutes ago that I loaded that page, you don't see me load that page at all recently, right? So, it only loads on errors, unfortunately. So that's one artifact you can look at to see, was it possible that happened, right? So we have the user XML file. That's the key thing to take away. If you're just, doing a file monitor, parsing a log file with your RMM or whatever the case, take a look at this, see what's going on, things of that nature. The other thing that you may want to consider taking a look at for the forensic artifacts, and unfortunately, this doesn't do a whole lot of justice, unfortunately, is the Windows system of logs, right? So we do have, and I can't go off camera because it'll kill my sound, but I want to. So in the filter logs, we actually want to get rid of this. So let me zoom this in here for you. Right, so you want to monitor specifically anything to do with your relay, anything with your security manager, anything with your session manager, and anything with your web manager, right? And I'll show you why. It's very limited logs, unfortunately, like I said a moment ago, but monitoring those logs will be very critical for you to at least see, are we potentially, seeing fire, right? So if you're starting to see, especially if you have an RMM or anything like that, and you got something that's monitoring, reboots, you got anything monitoring whatever, this server has been up for, one day, 12 hours and 11 minutes as of the time of this recording, right? But we're already seeing the web server being restarted several times, as of 5 hours ago. So, this is another telltale sign of a why is my web server for ScreenConnect restarting? It shouldn't be doing that. Um, there's not a whole lot of information. So to dive back into it, to look at we want to say, okay, can we determine any other activity from this user that got changed, right? So, well, let's do this something else. We'll dig into that in 1 second, but let's see, does ScreenConnect actually log anything at that 8:34 time frame? So we'll scroll up, and you'll see right here, there is a big, massive gap of information, right? Again, well, to be fair, this should not even be here, but the last thing that was logged was at 8:04. It did not log the ScreenConnect event logs in the application, or the ScreenConnect did not log in the application's logs that change at all. Are the new versions doing that? I don't know yet, right? So we already see that. So this server also has, one of my favorite tools called Sysmon, right? We'll do one other thing real quick before I pivot to that. Let's just say all event sources and clear that out. And let's just do a search for, let's just say poc.com. Well, you're not going to let me type on there. Okay. So we'll just do a find. Click on this first one. We'll go through this, but you'll see here in a moment that this thing, it doesn't find anything with poc.com. There's no events, and we'll just do, just for prosperity's sake, Charlie, Delta FX Romeo, and we'll do for the username as well. But unfortunately, there's just no logs, right? So far, except for the for that user XML file showing that there's a change in Windows, there's no way to determine that, and that's kind of a big problem, right? So, a lot of EDRs are not watching this, things of that nature. We're coming. There's a lot of SAML rules and stuff like that for your SIM. So if you're doing, external log aggregation, that's really where your SIM is going to come into play and be able to help you aggregate this type of stuff. We'll also dig into Sysmon like I promised. So we'll just do a quick find. And this will take a few moments, but it actually took less time than I thought. But there's nothing even in Sysmon, which is a very, very robust logging engine. So these changes, unfortunately, are not getting logged at all. So, what does this tell us so far? Again, user XML is really the only place that we have right now to prove that something has happened, right? So monitor your file hashes. That's the best thing. So we'll kind of go through a walkthrough real quick. And we'll change that user XML file. So we'll do a change. We'll say, let's say no reply at ABC. It's just my favorite thing to do. And because this is just a test box, I really don't care. Now, see, here's one thing I want you to notice. And thanks again to, I can't remember which one of the text generates. I think it was Slagle. So if you're watching, shout out to you. But, I thought at first, I'm like, oh, wow, cool. There's actually a stop gate here. You can't move on unless you enter your license key. But he corrected me on that one. So if we come back over here and refresh, you'll see I have now updated. No reply to ABC. My username is back to administrator, and I got full access to it. So I can literally back out of this, go back into here, into ScreenConnect, log in. And boom, we're back in. And again, this is just a dummy tenant, right? So, it's nothing special. It was literally just stood up just to gather forensic information. I will be probably leaving the server up for, a couple weeks to a couple months just so it can gather and we can see more holistically some of that data. And we'll just kind of go back. It's like, all right, in the, because we have new logs, let me go ahead and refresh my sysmon. And we'll just do no reply. And it'll just come back with nothing, right? So, oh, sorry, I clicked away from that too soon. So, yep. We have nothing, unfortunately. So, again, you got to look at the user XML. That's going to literally be some of your very key indicators that you have unauthorized access. Your HTTP header errors, that's also going to be the indication of potential, unauthorized access. So again, it's only the errors. I'll refresh it real quick. And we'll zoom in. And there's just no errors. Sorry, that looks blurry on my side. There we go. That's a little cleaned up. So you'll see, it doesn't log anything, unfortunately. So that's really from a forensic standpoint. What you want to do is, again, monitor these two situations, see what's going on. Now, if you want to dive in a little bit deeper into this situation, we'll talk about the database for a second. So ScreenConnect has two databases. We have a security database, and we have a session database. All right. So I was like, okay, well, maybe the security database will actually give us, some more insight. I was really hopeful about that, especially when I first started investigating and doing digital forensics on my first ScreenConnect case. I was like, oh yeah, we'll be able to use that database. But we are in the security database, as you can see here. We go into browse a database. Do you see any password updates here, ladies and gentlemen? No. You don't see that. All right. You see a login? That's where I successfully just logged in. Let me zoom in. You'll see where I believe that was the user name that it got changed to. We see some goofiness, of hello there, CVE test, CV, just all kinds of mucking around, right? So even the security database, ladies and gentlemen, does not log this. And just to expand on it, you have one table, right? There's nothing in here for password resets at all. So, is it a fail on the development? I personally think so, right? But, that's just me, especially when I'm trying to hunt evil. It's very disappointing that we are unable to get that type of information, right? So, it's bad. And the other thing that I've noticed in this thing too as well is when we're looking at the network address, it's blank. It literally shows nothing. So when we come over here and wrong button, we actually look at everything in a hexadecimal fashion. Stay zoomed in. There we go. Nope. Sorry, my zoom is not wanting to work right now, but hopefully you can be able to see that where it just doesn't show any information at all, right? So it's kind of a problem. This right here, if you do see this on the screen, again, I don't care. This is literally a throwaway server, so if you want to freaking hack on it, have fun with it or whatever after this, I don't really care. But anyway, that's just the IP address, so that was just coming from an external source. But, we see all these other ones where there's no IP address. You see mine, my local host, and the host name here of the server I literally called ScreenConnect. So it's the amount of logging in this thing is just downright staggering, unfortunately. So it's it's unfortunate. So let's just say hypothetically, yeah, you get locked out of your account, because this is one of the other things that was discussed in some of the forums and things of that nature. It's like, okay, what, if I go in here, we'll just change this again because, why not? Carl. Let's just say you get compromised. All right, you get back again. Yeah, we're updated. We're Carl. All right, so we're running a vulnerable version of this thing right now, right? So let's come in here. Oh, so they updated that. Okay, so no worries. We'll just, again, live production, ladies and gentlemen. We will come over here to the what we know. Let's just download the latest release. And there's one key thing I just want to show you. And I do know that they're messing with ScreenConnect, aka ConnectWise. What version do I have again? So sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me one moment. Oh, I got 3.7 on here. Okay. Well, that's pretty good, at least from a technological standpoint. They're not letting you jump major version revisions. So that's hats off to ConnectWise for that. That's really good. And of course, it's not going to want to let me do that. Okay, well, I will just say, forgive me, just trust me when I say this. Because I just can't do it in a live demo right now, unfortunately. But when you update and you're patching it, if your users.xml file is already compromised, it does not update that at all. It doesn't revert it back. It doesn't do anything. Threat actor still has access into the tenant, right? So just please be careful, because I know a lot of people will use that quote unquote default or the default administrator, cloud administrator, as a quote unquote break glass, and it will be used in case of an emergency. So if you are one of those, you may be able to restore access to your account through SSO or another user that you're currently using, because you're not using that quote unquote break glass administrator account, which hats off to you for at least being a little bit cyber secure in that situation. But you still allow a threat actor to potentially have access. So just be careful with that, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I will kind of bid adieu. Definitely let me know what you think about what I think, and drop those comments down there. If this was entertaining and enjoyable to you and you think other people would benefit from this, please do me a favor. Please share this out, share, like, subscribe, do all the cool things on the various platforms that you may be on. And until next time, y'all stay curious out there.
There once was a kid whose passwords laid across all sites, they were the same. A criminal then found their fame by taking that data to go.
Soon may a criminal come to steal your pictures and data and run. One day when the crime is done, they'll steal your account and go.